The United States says it bombed Iranian radar and drone control sites after Iran shot down a Predator drone over the weekend. And this morning, Kuwait, a key U.S. ally, has been intercepting incoming fire. We're going to welcome into the show retired Army Brigadier General Shawn and Majid Sajapur, political director for the Organization of Iranian American Communities. Great to have both of you today. Thanks for joining us on Morning in America.
Good morning.
All right, General Harris, let's start with you. What did today's dueling attacks mean for this shaky ceasefire and ongoing talks to try to extend it?
I tell you, I think what's going to end up happening, based on the president pushing back and saying that he wanted stronger words into the agreement, what's going to end up happening for the next couple of days or the foreseeable future, we will always have these, I call them self-defense attacks, where the United States will have to actually fire at the Iranians to try to keep things calm. So we're gonna see this every day until we actually get to an agreement.
All right, and Majid, over to you now. President Trump taking to Truth Social early this morning. I think we've got that post we can share. He basically said Iran really wants to make a deal, telling Americans that we should all sit back and relax. Do you think the regime really wants a deal, and will they agree to a good deal for the United States, as the president says?
I think the regime in Iran would like to be in no man's land, really. It's because he's fearing the population. This is a very weak and vulnerable regime that is surviving with executions, having his paramilitary forces all across the streets, with shopping malls we know firsthand are empty. This regime is suffering with the blockade, certainly for sure, and it is itself suffering because they closed the Strait of Hormuz. Look, the main problem here is the regime itself. And the people of Iran have been struggling to overthrow it for more than 45 years. I think that's the ultimate solution. These are all going to be band-aids, unfortunately. We have to rely on the fighting force, and we need to give credence to the right of the Iranian people to overthrow this regime. And the executions really need to be heightened, and that's why more than 100,000 of us supporters of the National Council of Resistance of Iran are going to Paris on June 20th to protest and again, shine the light on the people of Iran, the core force that can help overthrow this regime and address this problem once and for all.
Well, look, as our viewers are just waking up after spending probably a nice weekend at the pool, maybe they tapped out over the weekend and didn't realize there was military action happening there in the Middle East, and even more while they were sleeping as well. So General Harris, Iran says it attacked a U.S. airbase in the region, but didn't identify which one. There is a major U.S. base there in Kuwait, which says it was attacked by Iran this morning. So how critical is that base to U.S. operations in the Middle East?
You know, every base that we have in the Middle East is very critical, and it was just sure wrong for them to do that if they did it. You know, right now, we're only seeing that truly from the Iranian news cycle, but the reality of it is, I know the sitcom leadership will do the right thing, make sure that we're taking care of our troops and protecting them, but at the end of the day, like I said earlier, we are going to see these attacks continue until we actually get to an agreement, and that may still be some time in the future.
All right, and Majid, this conflict has spilled well outside of Iran's borders. How is the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hezbollah forces there in Lebanon impacting peace talks between the United States and Iran?
I think the regime in Iran is going to try to use whatever levers it has left, and Hezbollah is one of them. What you see is three-pronged executions in Iran to keep the population at bay, create problems in the Strait of Hormuz, and using the drones and missiles it does have left, and certainly creating problems in that region, entire Middle East, and that way it can handcuff global policy towards Iran and prevent the regime to be held accountable. Look, it is still operating its embassies across the Western Hemisphere. It is important that the European nations hold the regime accountable, highlight these executions that are occurring in Iran on an unprecedented rate. Unless that occurs, this regime will continue to be emboldened and create problems across the Middle East and certainly in the Straits of Hormuz.
Look at this ancient, this castle here. This is video coming to us from the Israeli military just into our newsroom this morning. Majid, talk about the significance of Israel capturing this castle there in Lebanon. There's a lot of history there.
I think the regime has had a strategic goal of preventing Western nations blackmailing Western nations into silence so it can oppress the people of Iran and conduct and expand its terrorist operations. When this regime is confronted fully in all fronts, and from the diplomatic front, from economic front, and certainly by supporting the Iranian people and their organized resistance, we'll see a final resolution. And these unfortunate one step forward, one step back approach towards Iran will be addressed. This regime has got to go in its entirety unless we want the continuation of expansion of fundamentalism, Islamic fundamentalism and terrorism across the globe. That is the only solution, and the solution to it needs the Iranian people, needs the fighting force, needs the MEK resistance units inside Iran.
Yeah.
That is why we're urging members of Congress to support American people to support this endeavor.
Right. These Iranian-backed terror proxy groups, I mean, they just kind of splatter all over the region, and Hezbollah being one of the biggest. Brigadier General Shawn Harris and Majid Sajapur, thank you so much for joining us today and weighing in.